Welcome to the Cyber Law and Business Report. Get the top story on the hot button internet legal topics of the day. This is your home for the latest on internet law and policy. Hear the latest net trends impacting business and have your questions answered right here. This is the Cyber Law and Business Report. Now, please welcome your host, the founder of the Internet Law Center, Bennett Kelly.
Good morning. This is Bennett Kelly broadcasting live from the Internet Law Center here in downtown Santa Monica in the heart of Silicon Beach. Please be seated. We have a great show for you today, but put on your acronym hat. We're going to be throwing them at you pretty quickly, FYI. And today we have Jeremy Malcolm with us from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF. And he's going to be talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, most commonly referred to as TPP. And there'll be a number of other acronyms thrown about, but it's a very important agreement that has been signed by President Obama and several other countries throughout Asia. We covered this in episode 192, where we had a guest from the Chamber of Commerce kind of walk us through the pro side. So as we are now in the final of 4 days of protest in Washington against the TPP. This was a good point to bring on Jeremy to explain the TPP from the opposite viewpoint. And there's some compelling arguments against TPP of the presidential candidates. Surprisingly, only two, apparently, of the major candidates support TPP in its present form. So, Jeremy, are you with us?
Yes, thanks for having me.
And pleasure to have you. Now, Jeremy's background, actually, he joined the EFF in 2014 and works on the international dimensions of issues such as intellectual property, network neutrality, internet governance, and trade. And comes from having spent several years in Indonesia working on trade issues, including the TPP. And as you can tell, Jeremy is Australian. He's admitted, actually a lawyer, admitted both in Australia and New York. So, Jeremy, welcome. So tell us what's going on right now on TPP in Washington.
Sure. Well, as you've mentioned, there are protests on the ground right now. We have one of our experts, Myra Sutton, there with the other activists actually protesting. It's sad that it's come to this, that the policymakers weren't able to listen to us before it got to the stage of protests, but that's where we're at, because despite all of the efforts that we had to improve the agreement and to cut out some of the bad provisions, we were disappointed by the final text, and so now we have to send a strong message to Congress saying we just don't want it to be signed at all.
So, Jeremy, we're talking about where this stands, and you said that there might be a chance, you think, that this could actually be stopped at the within Congress. How optimistic are you?
Well, it's an uphill battle, but battles like this have been won before. We've already just spoken about ACTA, so the other obvious example is the SOPA and PIPA internet censorship laws, which were once regarded as unstoppable, but then at the end of the day, we did stop them. And you've already also mentioned how all but two of the presidential candidates have come out against the TPP. So public feeling, I think, is certainly on our side. We are up against the might of the industry lobbyists who pushed this agreement from the beginning, so that's our weak point. We certainly can't match the lobbying money that these companies have behind them. It's going to take a long time and a lot of effort for us to overcome this kind of ingrained bias towards those industries. And so although I am hopeful, it would probably be overstating things to say that I'm confident that we can knock the TPP over at the last hurdle, but let's see. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
And just for your information, as usual, on our blog at Cyber Law Radio, www.wordpress.com. You can find background information on Jeremy as well as the TPP. I encourage you to check it out. And follow us as always on Twitter at CyberLaw Radio. And so I want to thank you everyone for joining us for another edition of CyberLaw Business Report. And be sure to check out our blog, as I mentioned, and also check out the Internet Law Center, internetlawcenter.net. We're a full-service internet firm, and I'm going to be going to Las Vegas this afternoon for our biannual meeting of the Internet Law Leadership Summit, and look forward to seeing all my colleagues in Internet Law later today and for the next 2 days. So shout out to them. And that's all we have. So join us next week on another edition of CyberLaw Business Report. This is Bennett Kelly saying be safe out there and have a great week.
This has been a presentation of WebmasterRadio.fm, the world's largest business-to-business radio and podcast network. We welcome you to sample past episodes of this program, as well as our complete library of programs, on demand or on the air via our 24/7 live audio stream at www.webmasterradio.fm. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of WebmasterRadio.fm is prohibited.